travel has changed now because of coronavirus, and destinations need to look at themselves and not say, how do we get back to how things were? They need to say, like, how are we going to excel in this new world that we live in? What is it that we need to do? What is it that travelers want?
Okay, everybody, we've been talking about recovery for a while now, and my team at Relic has been working on recovery campaigns for several destinations over the last couple of months. They've actually developed a pretty amazing, we'll call it an algorithm, to know when it's safe to do acquisition marketing in a market. And so what I mean by that is you've got government regulations, you've got, how is the virus affecting that market, whether there's been a decrease in cases or a decrease in deaths in that market. When is it safe to advertise, hey, come to our destination? Like I said, our team has come up with this algorithm to provide that information for you, and we're offering a free market report. We're calling it Recovery Triggers. And if you'd like a free Recovery Trigger report for your target market where you want to draw visitors from, please email me directly at adam@relicagency.com. Or you can go to recoverytriggers.relicagency.com and we'll get you set up with a free report, and we even have the ability to send you a weekly recurring report so you can see what's happening in that market on a weekly basis and make sure you're launching your acquisition campaign at the perfect time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. We've got a great show for you today. I'm really excited. Kind of a treat for me because we get to talk about some things that I really enjoy, and we'll dive into that. But our guest today is Alex Sousa, and I thought it would be great to bring him on. Alex is the PR manager at Relic, but he also co-authored Touchpoints with me. And I thought it would be really fun to have Alex come on and have the two of us just kind of talk about the book and what our reasons were for creating it, and what we feel like we accomplished with it, and then also some of the key takeaways that any destination that's listening might be able to use as they look at their brand holistically. So let's dive in. Alex, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me. It's great to finally be on here.
Yeah, we should have had you on earlier, but this is a great excuse to do it now that we've released this book. And you're not going to be exempt from any of these icebreaker questions that we ask our normal guests. I want to ask you too. So let's just start with, Alex, if you could go anywhere in the world, what would your dream destination be?
Anywhere in the world. So I'm actually quite the avid traveler, and so I have a long list of places I want to see. I've also got a lot of places that I want to go, but I think the next place on my list is probably Japan. Japan or Australia, one of those two.
Japan and Australia. Okay, I'm going to ask you why. Why Japan?
Well, first of all, again, like I've been traveling like quite a bit, and I've kind of been doing this like counterclockwise tour around the world, and so Japan is kind of like at the end of that. And I just a couple years ago I went to India, and Japan kind of seems like sort of the next destination I want to go to, and that's sort of on the end. Same with Australia, but like both of those places have been on my list for a long time. I think Japan in particular, just the cultural intrigue, like it's such an interesting place that's really become just this I don't want to sound cliche, but like a melting pot of ideas and different styles and aesthetics that I think is just really fascinating, the way that they all kind of coexist together. So I'd love to experience that. And then with Australia, like that, I think as a kid was sort of the first place that it just really excited me to think of it. It seems so exotic and so adventurous and so far away that it's always been a place that I wanted to go.
Oh, I share your desire to go to Australia. That was a place that I've always felt like I wanted to go and explore. I mean, kangaroos and, and
Right?
all the
Yeah.
different like wildlife and outdoor stuff there. I actually had somebody reach out to me. One of our listeners reached out to me this last week, and she's from Australia and owns a resort there in Australia. And I just thought, man, what a great excuse to finally take that trip, go visit a listener and see her resort. And anyway, it would be kind of fun. I think we're going to have her on the show here soon, so everybody will get to hear from her.
Excellent.
Well, great stuff, Alex. How about your favorite place you've ever been?
Ooh, favorite place. I think I've got two of them. I would probably say Dublin, Ireland, and Amman, Jordan.
Wow. Okay. Dublin, Ireland, and Amman, Jordan. I want to hear about both of those and why they were great.
Cool, for sure. So, when I went to Amman, I'll start with that one. I was actually out there in the Middle East, studying the media's influence on the Arab-Israeli conflict out there. So, I kind of did this tour all throughout the region. But Amman was the first place that I stayed, and when I stayed there, I was at this. It was called the Acor Center, and it's basically where any visiting archaeologist would stay. And so I talked with a lot of them. They had this basement full of just like these artifacts, and it was just like it again talking about that adventure just ignited that within me. But beyond that, even just like everything is beautiful out there. The people are incredibly gracious and very eager to like tell their stories and talk about the culture and the area. And it really is just a rich experience to be able to go there and experience something that is so foreign and so bereft of sort of Western influence. Like, I mean, of course it is there, but you go to some places and it's, you can see the influence that the Western cultures had on it. But Jordan, and I mean a lot of the Middle East, but speaking specifically to Jordan, has been able to retain so much of their own culture without sort of these other influences coming in and permeating. And when they do come in, they're able to sort of morph them and change them into their own culture. They kind of like take ownership of that still. And so it's a beautiful country, wonderful people, great food, and it's amazing being there. It's just the architecture, the art, the culture. It's just really, really amazing.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, let me ask you a quick Jordan question, and that's based on something that you said. You said that you were there, kind of auditing how the media was affecting that conflict. How does
Right.
one get set up to monitor the media in Jordan and their impact on a conflict? That seems like a pretty unique opportunity that you had there.
It definitely it was sort of this strange series of events. It was sort of like right place, right time, right field, since my background's in journalism, and I was studying journalism at the time. That opportunity kind of came up for me to go out there and look specifically at that and kind of do some research on sort of the social justice aspect of it. And so I happened to be sort of seeing someone who was into the Middle East, and so I was getting into it. And all these pieces kind of came together, and I ended up going with a small group out there to we were each studying different aspects of it, but my focus was on the media.
I've got to imagine that that was a pretty powerful experience to combine your love of travel, your interest in the Middle East, and your interest in journalism and how the media affects a conflict like that. That's fascinating to me, Alex.
It really was like you can't come back from something like that, especially being boots on the ground there with people, like experiencing their life with them. You can't come back from something like that without being changed completely by it.
Awesome. Well, I want to quickly talk about Dublin, and then I want to get into the meat of our show today.
Fantastic. Yeah, Dublin is just that's I plan to retire and die there. Like and Ireland as a whole, I think like I went there and just there's a poetry to the place, I think, with the people, with the landscape, the as a writer in particular, just their love of words and their relationship with the written word and with art. It's really powerful. But again, the people are very friendly. They're always interested to talk. Like I remember when I first arrived, I hopped off this bus and I just ran into this guy named Rory. I'd never met him before in my life, but we ended up walking probably 3-4 miles together, just talking about everything from philosophy to politics to literature. It's just an amazing place, and I feel like when I went there, it's like I made more sense to myself, and so it was really this magical place for me just to go and have this world opened up where I was like, oh, I've gained a better understanding of who I am because of this country and the people in it. So I
Wow.
absolutely love that.
Wow. Okay. I feel like we could do a whole episode just about those two experiences, but we'll have to leave those where they lie. Maybe that's bonus content for later or something.
Yeah, for the Patreon subscribers, right?
Yeah. I guess we got to figure those out. But
Yeah,
uh,
right.
let's talk a little bit, just so people have context about your background, how you ended up at Relic, and then kind of the events that led to us working on this book together.
Cool, for sure. So, as I mentioned earlier, my background is in journalism, and despite me going to the Middle East, which is definitely a politically focused endeavor, most of what I used to write was about entertainment and lifestyle. Like I was big into the music scene, and so I did a lot of like musician interviews and writings like that. But I would dabble in other like long form, think piece essays, and so I did have an interest in politics, and that kind of also tied into this interest in travel that I'd always had. And so I started to dabble in a little bit of travel writing too. And but anyway, so just because journalism can be a hard field right now, and I when I started in journalism, I was single, but then I got married, and we were going to buy a house, and we wanted kids, and being a journalist, like every really good journalist I knew was divorced, and I was like, okay, maybe maybe I need a different field or something, and so I transitioned more into public relations and started working on that side of it. Um, and but kind of I since I jumped ship so quickly from journalism into PR, I kind of took what I could get, took what I could find, and I didn't really find like the right situation with PR. And so I took a gap year. I taught journalism at a high school for a year. It was just like a 1 year thing because I happened to know somebody who was there. They were really in a crunch, so I took this teaching gig, knowing it'd be for a year, but it was kind of a time for me to realign my priorities. And then after that, I came out and kind of knew what I wanted to get into. And then I found Relic, knowing that they had an interest in tourism that matched with mine. So I applied, and everything worked out. So I've been here a year and a half now with you.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's been a fun journey as we've kind of, I've been doing tourism for a long time, and you understood the industry when you came in and have obviously dived a lot deeper since you've been here. It's been fun to really get to know this industry and have you kind of build out our product from a PR perspective. What do you feel like you've learned about PR for tourism destinations in the last couple of years?
I think when it comes to a tourism destination, people, what they really want is authenticity. I think there's really nothing worse than for somebody to be planning a trip, thinking about a place, like getting excited for it. Because when people travel, they're always excited. It's something to look forward to. And there's nothing worse in terms of public relations than for somebody to like have this idea of what their trip is going to be and then arrive and the destination doesn't meet their expectations. Now, of course, there's things that the destination can't control, like people are going to have a bad trip just, for whatever reason outside of the destination's control. But it's really important for the destination to meet the promises that they've made in their advertising, in their public outreach and media relations, in their trip planning and everything that they do. It's important that it's an accurate and authentic representation, so that somebody doesn't show up and it's like, oh man, like this is what I signed on for. Like, what are those like Captain Obvious commercials? I can't remember if
Yeah,
it's
the
like Travelocity, but it's
hotels.com.
like, Yeah, hotel. Okay, yeah, that's right. Hotels.com. It's like, the family gets there and it's like, oh, like the roof of the hotel is leaking, and the beds are just bare mattresses. It's like that's not what was in the photos. Like it's very important, and obviously that's an extreme, comedic
Sure.
scenario that they've created. But like that idea of, nobody wants to like be on Pinterest and they see a beautiful photo of a beach and they're like, oh, I want to go there. And then they plan a trip and then they get to the beach and there's like, dead crabs and soda cans littering everything.
Yeah.
So it's, I think as far as destinations creating personas, they need, or their brand, I guess is a better word for that. They need to understand who they are and what they're offering and then portray that accurately.
I love that. I think authenticity, in fact, we cover it in the book.
We
Spoiler
do.
alert, right? But I think authenticity is such an important part of destination marketing. And in an industry where so many destinations, their advertising tends to run together a little bit. I love the idea of making sure that you are true to who you are as a destination in all of your communication. Now, my question for you, Alex, is from a PR standpoint, how do I make sure that I am being authentic as I roll out my PR plan? And how do the tactics of my PR plan tie into authenticity?
I think a lot of it comes down to honesty. Like you have to honestly evaluate your destination and determine what it is that you actually offer and what it is that you're actually good at. And you have to like play up those things that you are good at, because obviously in public relations and in advertising, like you do want to highlight the good things. Like you do want to attract these visitors, but to do that in a way that is authentic, I think you have to take a good hard look at what it is that you offer and make sure that people understand that. And so I think a lot of that comes down to destination marketers sitting down and evaluating. And again, in the book, there's worksheets to evaluate these things.
Right.
But you have to take that time to determine that. But you don't want to create that in a vacuum. And so I think like talking to other people, talking to locals, getting their opinions on what is done well, talking to visitors, like anytime that you can do some sort of like focus group or something like that to give you insight into the visitor experience, I think that's going to be great. And then I also think destinations need to take an active part in improving anything that isn't up to the level that they want it to be, and so if that's working with the city or county or state or whatever level the DMO is at, to clean up certain areas and kind of do this outreach and working together with other organizations, I think that's also very important, to kind of bring all these parts into play, and to just kind of help everybody raise up. I know a few episodes back, I can't remember who you're talking to, but I believe it was somewhere in Kentucky where they just couldn't they like couldn't get any new employees to come work
Oh,
for
this is
local companies
Tulsa.
there.
Yeah, this is
Tulsa,
Tulsa.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's right. Okay, yeah, it's all coming back to me now. Where you couldn't, or they can't get a workforce coming in from out of state just because of the reputation, and that's part tourism, that's part economic development. Like these groups need to work together and understand that they're all building the brand of the city, just different aspects of it. And obviously tourism's a big part, they bring in a lot of tourism dollars, but they have to work with these other departments, these other organizations, and they all have to work together to make their city or county or state or whatever it may be the best that it can.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I want to ask you one more question before we take a little break here. And that's the question of newsworthiness. Alex, you and I have talked a lot about newsworthiness and what justifies writing a press release and what doesn't. Can you give our listeners a couple of tips on how to understand if this thing that's very important to them, that feels like definitely a newsworthy experience or bit of news, how do you as a destination know if your news is actually newsworthy and a journalist is likely to pick it up?
That's a great question. You know that this is my hill to die on. So
I
let
do.
me
I do.
yes, I'll try to rate in my passion about it. But there's different ways that you can approach talking to journalists or editors. And so let me kind of break that down. So specifically, there are press releases that you can send out, and a good press release is going to read like a news article, and that's specifically news. Like you open up your newspaper or you go to like your news website and you click on the news section, and it's going to be something that is relevant to the time. So it's happening soon, or it ties into something happening soon. It's going to be important to the region, whatever newspaper or news outlet will say that you're trying to get something published in. It has to actually apply to the group that's going to be viewing it. It has to read like a news story. A good press release is going to be something that an editor could just like take wholesale and put on their website. And so it needs to revolve around this like time space area, like this convergence of
Were
time
you
and
about to
space.
say time space continuum? Is that
I
where
you
you
know
almost landed?
that was the only that was the only word that was coming to mind. I was like, no, that we're not in a sci-fi world. um but this convergence of time and space, where kind of those two overlap, that's where a press release is going to have impact. So it's like it's something that is happening, that is relevant to the area of the readership, that they will find interesting. I think that that's sort of like the universal thing, is there has to be some sort of interest tied into it as well. It has to be something that people, that's going to have some sort of effect on them, or maybe not like an emotional effect, but it has to like be something that they'll find interesting, right? So you're looking at time, you're looking at the region, you're looking at the intrigue for a press release. So let me think of a couple examples. So, like, a press release for like a big event, like let's say there's a hot air balloon festival. Like that's a great reason to have a press release, because you can send it out, a month or a few weeks before, and say this thing is happening in this area. It's going to be, these 3 days. These are the events going on during that. It's very informative, right? And it's newsworthy because it has a timeliness. It's going to be happening soon. You'll send it to publications that service the regions you're trying to reach. So let's say, you're in it's New Mexico that has a big hot air balloon festival.
Right.
So they're going to be hitting like their local regions, maybe people in Arizona, Colorado. They're going to be hitting those publications, so that they can attract those drive markets. And it's intriguing. Like people will like open their newspaper, or well, I don't know if anybody opens a newspaper anymore, but wherever they get their source, their news from, they're going to look at it and say like, oh, I was wanting to do something with my family. I've been working too hard. I want to get away. That is intriguing to me. And so then they'll like look at that and be interested in it. So that's sort of like that type of newsworthy press release story. That's great for that.
Great example.
A feature story can, like I said, it can be something sort of removed from that, but it's still better if you can tie it to that newsworthiness. So with a feature story, you would reach out to a travel writer, a travel influencer, something like that, and have them create a piece about some aspect of your destination. So you could take that same hot air balloon story, and you could reach out to a journalist and say, hey, we have this hot air balloon festival. We've been doing it for 50 years. We'd love for you to come out and experience it and do a piece on it. And so that, like, it's still tied to an event. There's still like a timeliness surrounding it, but it's a little bit softer. It's not here's the facts, it's more experiential. It's saying like, oh, okay, like this is what I saw, this is where I was at, this is the attitude and feel of it, and this
Almost
is
from the visitor
why
point
it's
of view.
interesting. Exactly. It's much more of that ground level view, as opposed to sort of this broadcast that the press release is. it's really taking this perspective of this is what your experience could look like if you came to this thing. And again, like if you have that timeliness and that regional aspect to it, like it makes more sense. It kind of puts it in context for people automatically, because let's say your hot air balloon festival is in July. If somebody's reading it in January, they may not like really understand why they're reading it at that point. But if they're, reading it in the May issue, then they're going to say like, oh, like that's a couple months away. I can do that. Um, and they can kind of like be more up on it, more prepared, just because they have that context of the time setting, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think that speaks to patience too. Like if the writer comes out in July, the feature may not come out until May, and that's okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah, exactly.
Alex, I want to take a quick break, and then let's come back and let's dive into this book we've worked on together.
Awesome.
Okay, everybody. As many of you know, I own an advertising agency called Relic, and we focus on destination marketing and helping tourism destinations get more people to the destination. And then once they're in the destination, make sure that we're giving them a great experience and maximizing the possible revenue generated for the destination and its economy. And as part of that process, we've just had so many opportunities to build some special relationships with the destinations that we've worked with, come up with some really fun campaigns to work on, and we would love to do more. And so if you are a tourism destination or a related tourism business listening to this show, and you hear some of the people that we've brought on, like Alex from our organization, who clearly know what they're doing within the destination marketing industry, we'd love to talk to you and see if we can't help you. What we normally do when we're looking at helping a destination is we'll just come in and do an audit. We'll do a creative audit, we'll do a media audit, a digital marketing audit, a website audit, and really make sure that we understand what's going on. And sometimes we'll say, hey, you guys are doing great. But sometimes we'll find some things that you could probably do better. And if you like what we say, you can either take some of those tips and tricks and give them to your current agency and keep heading down that road, or hey, maybe give us a shot to execute on that plan for you. And we would do that audit at no cost. So if you're interested in having somebody take an outside look, a third-party view of what you're doing, especially during this time of recovery, let me know. My email address is adam@relicagency.com, and I would love to have our team take a look at what you're doing and help you out. Okay, Alex, let's get into the book. You and I have been working on this, man. It's for almost a year now, and it was so fun to publish this book back in January. And I felt like you and I worked really well together, had a lot of fun on it, and really got to dive as deep as I've been able to on a topic in a long time. A lot of these destinations are going through their recovery process right now. Why would now be a good time to evaluate a destination's brand when a lot of destinations are focusing so much on what's my outward message? How do I get people here? Why would now be a good time to examine your brand?
Well, I think there's two things right now, two reasons. For one, because you had a break in travel, you're not necessarily going to have visitors there. So as you evaluate, there are things that you can fix in like the physical real world. And so that's one aspect. But I think the big reason why it's a great time is because we did have this pause in travel. And so now every destination is going to be competing for, maybe not competing directly against each other, but every destination is trying to get these travelers back, and there are X amount of travelers. And so I think brands that take this time to really evaluate themselves and understand what it is that they offer and what it is that they represent and the values that they represent, I think they're going to have an edge on other destinations who don't take that time. The ones who do rush that messaging to get it out there in front of people, to get those travelers. I think the ones that take this time to evaluate themselves, do an honest evaluation, are going to come out on top. And especially like travel has changed now because of coronavirus, and destinations need to look at themselves and not say, how do we get back to how things were? They need to say, like, how are we going to excel in this new world that we live in? What is it that we need to do? What is it that travelers want? Now there's a whole new aspect of health and safety measures that need to be considered and applied, and destinations need to put some thought into that. It's not okay, when can people stop wearing masks? It's okay, like, if we need to wear masks, like, how can we make people feel comfortable without being obtrusive into their time to get away? So I think that's going to be a really important driving force in the future. And I think to get these travelers to their destinations, they're going to need to put some serious thought into it, and to figure out how they're going to communicate those messages.
Yeah, it's funny, Alex. I think especially in a time like this when safety is so much more important of a message than it was before, your positioning has changed, right? Like your competitive advantage as a destination. So let's use let's use Durango, Colorado as an example, right? So in the past, if I was choosing between on a summer trip, if I was trying to say, oh man, do I want to go to New York or do I want to go to Durango? So do I want this amazing urban experience in New York, or do I want this relaxed, more small town, rural experience? And there's a lot of people that are choosing between those two types of trips. I would say the competitive advantage that Durango has today is completely different than the competitive advantage that they had for the person deciding between those two destinations 4 months ago.
I think you're absolutely right. Like, again, the landscape has shifted, where now, like, going to these urban hubs where there's, millions, billions of people, that might not be as appealing as it used to be. And, now, like, I mean, food and travel are so connected, but, maybe that foodie culture isn't going to be as strong for the next little while. It's going to be more about, oh, can I go for a mountain bike ride where I'm not going to have to see another person and worry, oh, am I going to get sick? It's more about that type of experience. I think it's really interesting. In my position as a public relations manager, a lot of what I have to do is about mitigating mitigating expectations. And whereas in advertising, you are looking at, what is it that people want and how do we deliver what they want. With PR, it's similar to that, but it's more based on, like, okay, well, what are people's concerns and how do we address those concerns and remove those concerns so they don't even think about it. It really is about, I mean, specifically in tourism, like, you want someone to come to your destination and to enjoy themselves. And so when we're facing this worldwide pandemic, it can be difficult to make them feel comfortable or safe, or not make them worry about whatever is going on in the world, because there's a lot of upheaval right now. And so for me, I think the best way, again, like I've talked about, honesty and authenticity, but that really is it. Like, you can't, like, brush these things under the rug. You have to address them, um, because that is what's going to make people feel safe and secure. And so I think,
Yeah.
going back to your question of, like, what can destinations do, that's what I think it is looking and saying, like, okay, what is it that we can do to remove these worries in a way that is true to our capacity and capabilities.
Yeah, yeah, great points. And I want to go back, I guess, to the thesis of the book, right? Like the whole point of the book is that, and it comes from me sitting in a session of the Utah Tourism Conference in 2013. And Tom Love, we've had him on the show, pretty amazing industry professional. He's won advertising person of the year in Utah, and he's just a kind of a figurehead of the industry. And he said that a brand is the sum of all the touch points an organization has with the outside world. And when I heard that, I've always understood what a brand is, but I've never had it summed up in such an easy and clear and simple to understand way. And I kind of took that as this is how I'm going to approach branding for destinations. And so over the last several years, I really tried to examine all the different touch points that destinations have with the outside world. And I wanted to pull together a comprehensive resource for destinations to examine their brand and all the touch points within it so that they can evaluate and improve. And so as we did that, we walked through so many different touch points. What were the highlights for you as we were able to examine what some other destinations have done and kind of include the examples that we did in the book?
Oh, let me think. Because I mean, there were some great examples. I think one that has always stuck out to me, and Adam, you'll have to help me out on this, but it's the example about the waiter when you went to that restaurant and the
Oh, I
server,
love
like,
this one.
yeah, where was that? Which
So
destination is
this
that?
was in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Knoxville. I thought it was in Tennessee or Kentucky, but I was like, which one? So yes, Knoxville. Yes, when you go to that restaurant, and which was recommended to you, I believe.
It was
Yeah, and so you go there and you have a great meal because it was a good
a
recommendation.
great meal.
And then yeah, and then when you ask about dessert, and the waiter says, we've got good desserts. Like, they're great. I think they're great. But if you want like a true Knoxville experience, go to this other place. And I think that idea is so powerful. The idea of destinations, like everybody within a destination understanding what that destination is and making sure that visitors have the best experience they can have there. I think that is the one of the strongest messages in the book, and it's the one that definitely sticks with me the most. And just because, like, it's not, I get it. Like, if you're a restaurant, you do have to carve out a market for yourself that isn't, being used by all the other restaurants in your destination. Like, yeah, there's that element of competition, but like the idea of everybody working together to try to elevate the visitor experience, I think that's what destinations need in order to survive. And I think like the book does a great job of laying that out and like taking steps to do that. If I do say so myself, but I think that example in particular is sort of like this gold standard that destinations could look at and say, like, are we doing this? Like, if somebody went to a restaurant in my destination, would this be the experience that they had? And if it's not, then the book again lays out like steps that you can take to achieve that.
Right, right. And going back to just the different touch points that we cover in the book, I feel like we got just about everything. We're gonna have to release new editions because new touch points are coming all the time. But we cover creative and design, public relations, events, your website, advertising, digital marketing, content, your in destination touch points. So what happens when they're there, word of mouth, and we kind of dissect each of those. And at the end of each section, we have a worksheet, and you touched on that just a little bit earlier. And I want to walk everybody through what that worksheet is. It's very simple. It's essentially you give each touch point a letter grade, and then you describe the reason for that grade. So A, B, C, D, F, just like school, right? We'll skip E. And then what stakeholders need to be involved to solve the problem. So if I have a hotel that maybe isn't delivering on the customer experience and living up to the brand promise, then I need to meet with that hotel and anyone else that needs to be involved in that discussion. And then I need to put on here the kickoff meeting date, and then what's our detailed plan of action after that meeting. And those 5 things is pretty simple, right? But I feel like if once a year every destination went through each of their touch points, went through the process, gave it a letter grade, had a meeting to put together a plan of action and actually executed on that plan, I mean, the possibilities are endless for these destinations to improve their brand, right, Alex?
Oh, I absolutely think so. Again, going back to what I was saying earlier about destinations needing to be honest about what it is that they do well, and where they need to improve. I think the worksheet does a great job for them to really kind of break that down, because that can be an overwhelming question if you don't, if you're just starting and you say like, okay, well, what, who are we and what do we do well and what should we advertise, like that'll drive any destination marketer crazy. But I feel like those worksheets in particular, especially in conjunction with the explanations of what they are talking about, I think it's a great way for a destination marketer to kind of ease into those big questions. It breaks it down into much more palatable segments, with clear direction, so you can evaluate that and come out on the other side saying like, okay, like I know what it is that we do well. I know what it is that we need to improve on. And then if you do that every year, you can track that. And I think tracking that is going to be a huge asset, because the things that you're doing well, you can keep them at that level, and then you can see the growth, in terms of how you're improving what you weren't doing so well.
Absolutely. I mean, if this was an annual exercise for a destination, I really do feel like the improvement would be so apparent even after a year or 2 years. That I mean, you're looking at a completely different destination on in a good way. In 2 to 4 years. So, Alex, obviously, we had a lot of fun putting the book together. We've talked a lot about destination marketing. I want you to give me kind of your one takeaway for our listeners. I'm a destination trying to figure out how to navigate everything that's going on. I've got my brand, I've got my advertising, I've got my public relations. What's your core recommendation, takeaway for a destination right now?
um Read Touchpoints. No, I'm
Oh,
kidding.
I like it.
I think the core takeaway for me is, I mean, I've already touched on honesty and authenticity. I think, um beyond what I've talked about, really it is looking to your visitors as people, as actual people who have concerns and stresses and worries and, good times and bad times, and who are coming to your destination for something, for a reason, whether that's to get away or to see someplace new, or to spend more time with their kids, or to get away with their significant other, like whatever the reason is. Like they didn't just like, the plane didn't just land and was like, oh, you're here now. Like people made a choice to come to your destination, so trying to understand what it is that brought them there and delivering on that, as they are people, as they are human beings with these different motivations and styles and everything. So I think taking a step back from how are we performing, how many visitors are here, what's our TRT, like, what's hotel occupancy at, taking a step back from those concerns and saying like, okay, but the people, the individuals that are coming here, like what is their experience and how can we make sure that it meets their needs and wants and desires. I think that's, for me, one of the most important things a destination can do.
Yeah, I love that because right now there is such a movement for data, right? And everybody's looking to
Hmm.
get better data. Everybody wants to be able to, in fact, you can even get down to the individual in some cases and look at their visitor ID, and immediately that person becomes a number because you've assigned a visitor ID to that
Yep.
person.
Yep.
And we essentially are looking at these aggregate pieces of data and making decisions off of that. And if we don't remember that there's human beings on the other side of that and customer experience, and this is the importance, we talk about personas early on in the book. We won't dive into that right now, but it really is. I think that's such a great piece of advice of we need to look at the data. We need to understand how the data affects everything that we do, but let's also like look at these people as human beings and not binary numbers.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I don't want to like knock data. Like data is, it's important to have, it's important to look at, but like you have to remember the experiences that are giving you that data. And again, that's, I think this is a good reason why destinations need to look at, you know digital media and traditional advertising and look at those numbers and that reporting, but also have a PR plan that will step in and say like, yeah, but what about the human experience? And so I think that is a good argument for destinations to have this holistic view instead of just zeroing in and kind of saying like, well, all we need to do is run social media ads. You really, like, if you want a destination to succeed and to hit all these targets, like, you have to have a holistic plan.
Absolutely. Well, Alex, this has been fun. I appreciate you coming on with us and sharing your knowledge and experience today.
Of course.
Thanks, everybody, for listening today. We really appreciate it. Another fun show. And if you enjoyed today's content, please leave us a rating and review. You can find Touchpoints on Amazon. Make sure you look up Touchpoints by Adam Stoker. You'll find it there. And we'll see you next week. Okay, everybody, we've been talking a lot over the last couple of months about recovery campaigns and what that looks like. And the coronavirus has really thrown so many of us for a loop. If you have found yourself struggling to know how you're going to plan your recovery campaign, or if you're not sure if you've got the right plan in place, my team has been putting together these recovery campaigns for several destinations. We would love to take that opportunity to provide one for you. If you're interested in getting some guidance for your recovery campaign, whether it's just for us to take a look and give you some high-level recommendations, or if you're looking for someone to help you see it all the way through, we'd love the opportunity to take a look. If you're interested in having us take a look and help you come up with the right recovery campaign, please email me directly at adam@relicagency.com and we'll get you set up.